we have a little bit more to do with standard form of parabolas, 2 slides actually. And we're going to go through and also continue to use the calculator a little bit. For these, we don't actually have to come up with a graph picture, although I am still going to use my calculator to help me a lot. These are giving you a standard form equation. So this is a standard form of a parabola, and it's asking you to switch it to vertex form. So I want to make sure you're comfortable with that. Couple things that you should know just by looking at it. So if you look at the first one, 4x squared plus 16x plus 19, you should know that it opens up because it has a positive number in the beginning. It's also very skinny. It's very narrow because it has a number bigger than 1 in the beginning. You should also know where it crosses the y-axis. You should know it crosses the y-axis at 19. So those are some of the things that we know just by looking at it. Well, now I need to find the vertex because I can't write it in vertex form unless I know where the vertex is. So my A is 4, my B is 16, and my C is 19. The formula that I used last video, and I'm going to keep using it, is the opposite of B over 2 times A. That is a formula that's just, again, gets used a ton. So you have negative 16 divided by 8, which is negative 2. Here's where the calculator comes in. So I am going to graph it. Even though I don't have to have a picture, the calculator is just going to help me make this a little faster. I'm going to type in 4x squared plus 16x plus 19, and I'm going to hit graph. So there's my parabola. I only get to see part of it on the screen. I want to find the value at negative 2, so I'm going to go to second trace value, and I'm going to type in negative 2. And I do have it flashing right there on the bottom, so I'm pretty comfortable in my work. My vertex is at negative 2, 3. So here's what I have to do with this. I don't want you to draw a picture. I don't want you to tell me about the axis of symmetry. I want you to write an equation in vertex form. So in vertex form, we know we have something squared, and then we have something after it. So my vertex is at negative 2, 3, which means it went left 2 and up 3. So the way that I write that in vertex form, if I want to go left 2, I'm going to have to put a plus 2 in the parentheses. And then if I went up 3, I have to put a plus 3 at the end. And the only thing that I have left to do is I have to figure out what the A value is. Well, here's the nice thing. You already know what the A value is. It's going to be the same no matter what form you're in. So that 4, that A value, is going to go in the very front of your equation. So that is the vertex form of this. If you were to graph both the original equation and this new equation at the same time, you would just get one parabola right on top of the other. So let me show you another one just so you can get to see that again. So I'm going to write down my A, my B, and my C. I know this parabola is upside down. My formula opposite of B, so the opposite of negative 18 is positive 18, over 2 times A. Again, if you need to use a calculator for this, just make sure you're careful with parentheses. So we got 18 divided by negative 6, that's negative 3. So I'm going to go to my calculator, go to y equals, and I'm going to type in this equation, negative 3x squared minus 18x minus 29. I do know negative 29 is the y-intercept. I'm going to go to graph. There's my parabola. It is upside down. It's skinny. I'm going to go to second and then trace to get this calculate menu. I want the value at negative 3. There's my vertex. My vertex ends up being at negative 3, negative 2. So negative 3, negative 2. So that means when I write my vertex form, it went left 3 and down 2. So to go left 3, I need to put an x plus 3 in my parentheses that's being squared. To go down 2, I need to subtract 2 on the end. And then finally, I need to fill in my A value, which I knew all along is negative 3. And that's going to go right in front. So that's how we go from standard form to vertex form. You just need to find the vertex using what we have been doing this whole topic, and then fill everything into the proper form. One last slide for 4.2. If I want to do the reverse, if I want to go from standard form if I want to go from vertex form into standard form, I know standard form has no parentheses. So I need to simplify this as much as I can and not use parentheses. It's going to use a lot of old algebra skills. First thing I have to do with this is I'm going to have to square this out, or I'm going to use the term that maybe you haven't thought about in a while. I'm going to have to FOIL this out. Here's what I mean by this. This x minus 1 is there twice. That's what x minus 1 being squared means. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to FOIL those two parentheses, those two binomials. The negative that's out front, I'm not going to do anything with that. Let me remind you what FOILing was if it's been a while. FOILing is you're going to multiply your first together, so your x times x, which is x squared. Your outer, each letter in FOIL stands for something. Outer is going to be the x times the -1. That gives you negative x. Your inner, which are going to be the two that are the closest to each other. So -1 times x is negative x again. And then your last is going to be your -1 times your -1, which is +1. And I am going to want to combine like terms to get it a little cleaner. So when I do that, I get x squared minus 2x plus 1. So that's going to be step 1. It's going to be the longest step. You're going to have to FOIL out that binomial. Step 2 is you're going to want to distribute whatever is in front of your parentheses now. So that negative, we've just been kind of holding on to it. That negative needs to distribute. So we're going to get a negative x squared, a positive 2x, and a -1. And then your third and final step is going to be to combine any like terms. So in this case, my like terms are the -1 and the -4. So I get negative x squared plus 2x minus 5. So that's how you go from a vertex form equation to standard form. 3-step process. You might want to jot down these 3 steps in your notes. Step 1 is to FOIL out the binomial. So when I say FOIL, I mean write that binomial twice and FOIL it out. Then you want to distribute whatever was in front of your parentheses. And then finally, you want to combine any like terms. And usually there's constants that you can combine. If it's in this form down here, now this is something called factored form. We haven't done as much with this yet. We will later in the chapter. And the directions want to get it in standard form. This one's going to be a little faster. You are still going to have to FOIL this. Don't do anything with the 3 right away. Just leave the 3. So when I FOIL, x times x is x squared. X times 7 is 7x. -4 times x is -4x. And -4 times 7 is -28. Combine your like terms in here. So you're going to have x squared, 7x minus 4x is positive 3x. So that's their FOILing. Your second step will be faster. Your second step is going to be to distribute whatever is in front of the parentheses. So that 3 that's been just kind of hanging out, distribute that 3 through. So when you do, you get 3x squared plus 9x. And then 3 times -28, if you don't know what 3 times -28 is, you're welcome to use a calculator. It is -84. So that's how you go to something called factored form, where you have 2 sets of parentheses and you want to go to standard form. It only takes 2 steps. You FOIL those 2 factors, those 2 binomials, and then when you're done with that, you're going to distribute whatever is in the very front. And that is the end of 4.2 and standard form.